Hey, what's up, fellas? Welcome again to another episode of Sith is the Way. Actually, this is the first episode. That little segment that you guys saw on the channel that I posted up a couple of days ago, that was kind of like a little behind the scenes segment, kind of like deleted scenes, because I just wanted to give you guys a sneak peek of what we were going to be doing. So I'm joined here by Travell Brown and Taylor Steffen. All right, guys, we didn't do any intros the last time. We were just kind of talking off the cuff, and I just threw that up there just to kind of give people a little taste of what we're going to be doing for this podcast. So let's go ahead and just do some proper introduction. So my name is Derek Anderson. I'm also the host of Movies with the Homies. That's my show on my channel you're watching right now. Yeah, I've been a Star Wars fan for as long as I can remember. Back when I was in kindergarten, back in 1977, that's when Star Wars first dropped on the scene. And I can remember playing with my friends, with all the little kids at school. And I was somehow always picked to be like Han Solo for some reason. Everybody wanted to be Luke or somebody else. So that's my background in terms of where I started. Now, my first Star Wars film that I can actually remember going to watch was actually The Empire Strikes Back. I know I went to Star Wars, like the original Star Wars, but I don't have any like memory of it. I just remember it from other people talking about it. Like, yeah, we went to see Star Wars. So yeah, that was my first Star Wars film. And then my favorite Star Wars character, Yoda. Yoda is actually my guy, old Jedi master, kind of, crazy and kooky, living in the swamp, but that's my guy. And then finally, my favorite Star Wars film also is The Empire Strikes Back. So that's me. I'm gonna kick it to the fellas so they can kind of introduce themselves. Go ahead, Travell.
All right, yeah, I'm Travell Brown. I've been a Star Wars fan just as long as you have, because we're in the
Right,
same grade level. We went to the
right.
same at the same time. So my first memory of Star Wars really is the first movie. I didn't see it in theaters though, but I remember getting on the toys and I was like Darth Vader and like C-3PO and R2-D2 and Luke and everyone else. The first movie that I ever saw in the theaters was just like you, Empire Strikes Back. And
Okay.
so that was like, wow. And that was the one movie. It's my favorite movie, by the way, as well. That's
Hmm.
the one that I saw more than any other movie because when it came on HBO, that was real big back in the 80s.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
that
on
was huge.
HBO.
Right.
I, Me and my sister, as a matter of fact, we watched that movie a cajillion times. Even when the picture tube went out, because you ain't always got the best money. When the picture
Right.
tube went out, we would just sit there and listen to it like we were on the radio. So it was just that's just my favorite movie. And so my favorite character was Luke, but then it evolved into Han Solo.
Oh,
Han
okay.
is just that cool character that just, I got the jokes, I get the girls, I'm just that guy, kind of cocky, but I have a heart. So Han is definitely my favorite character, and just thinking about all the Star Wars stuff throughout the entire years. Like I know me and you, we go back to the original trilogy, and
Oh
then just
yeah.
watching all the prequels and the sequel trilogy and the
Oh
animation
yeah.
and all that. It's a wonderful universe to be a part of. So I'm excited to be
Yeah.
here talking
And
about it. So
the good thing about it is going back as far as we had like that 16-year gap, right, between
yeah,
83 and 99, where there was like no like TV shows, cartoons, nothing. We just had to rely on some books, and then pretty much just watching the original trilogy over and over and
and
over and
over
becoming
and
really
over again.
invested that.
Yep.
Now we're living in this like golden age of Star Wars material where there's just a ton of stuff out there for us to watch. So that's the beauty about like this era. That's why I'm so excited because Star Wars has just been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. Just like you, I had all the toys and everything else. So yeah, that's why coming in now where it's like, hey man, you got cartoons, you got movies, you got television shows.
Right,
It is a
right.
great time to be alive. Taylor, all right, let's hear yours, man. What's
The youngin.
your yeah, he's the young guy in the group.
All right.
What's your list?
Yeah, so my name's Taylor Steffen. My first movie I saw was on VHS was A New Hope. My first actual in theater movie was The Phantom Menace. That might age me a little bit, as you can tell, a little younger on here. So yeah, first movie in theaters was Phantom Menace. Um, but overall, favorite character, a little cliche, but I got to go with Luke from the beginning. He's always been a scrapper, starting off in the desert,
All
rose
right,
to
all
redeem
right.
himself, save the galaxy. And overall, might be a little against the grain, but my favorite Star Wars movie is going to be Rogue One. Just
okay, all right.
I love the
Rogue One is
originals. I
a
love the
great movie, man.
prequels, but Rogue One, just storytelling in there, and something about it gets me every time. Especially Travell knows this, and where Vader comes in, can't beat that.
Awesome.
That's right. That's
Go
right.
against the grain, but I gotta go with Rogue One.
All right, folks. So let's go ahead and get to some topics here. We had a couple of topics we're going to discuss. And the first topic up is we're going to talk about filling in the gaps, okay, from Mando to The Force Awakens. So I thought this was interesting because we know there's about like I don't know, like what is it, 25 years? Because I think it was 30 years between the end of the Return of the Jedi and then the beginning of The Force Awakens. I think that's like a 30-year gap.
Yeah.
And then Mando takes place like 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So right now you have 25 years of just wide open spaces. And how are they going to fill that in? What are they going to do? And the first question I had in regards to that was, how many more seasons do you guys think they're going to keep going with this Mandalorian storyline? I mean, are we going to get like 2 more seasons, 3 more, 4 more, 10 more? Like, where do you think we're going to end up? Because there's still a lot that they have to kind of unpack when it comes to where they left us off at the end of season 2.
I honestly think, well, one, if it continues to make money, it'll keep making a whole lot more seasons. But if we were to go off the stories and stuff, I'm thinking they probably won't overdo it.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 2 to 3 more seasons. Like, I can't see a Mandalorian season 8, 9. I'm thinking.
So how much do you think they can wrap up in like two or 3? I mean, let's say 2 seasons. Can they wrap this thing all the way up and get to the finish line in 2 seasons for every? Because here's the way I look at it. All right, we still got this Mandalorian. I think that's where they're going to be going now, right? They're going to try to take back Mandalore from the Empire, or something. I believe that's where they left off at the end of season 2. Okay, so you got that storyline, right? You still got this dark saber situation that they still got to iron out, because right now I think we have 4 folks that are kind of vying for the control of the saber. You got Din Djarin. You have Bo-Katan, right? And then you got the armorer. We saw him in Book of Boba Fett, and that's Vizsla. I think it's Paz Vizsla. I'm pretty sure that's his name.
Yeah.
Paz Vizsla. So he's like, hey, that belongs to me. Tar Vizsla, Pre Vizsla. I'm the next Vizsla in line. I think that Darksaber belongs to me. And then you got Moff Gideon running around, and I'm pretty sure he's going to try to get back in the mix for the control of the Darksaber. So, like, can they wrap that up in 1 season? Is that going to do it justice?
Well, probably not 1. I'm still thinking maybe like 3 more.
Okay, so you think 3?
Because you can wrap up, like I'm saying, it probably won't, because we just finished season 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I can see probably season 5, 6. I can't see 8, 9, 10.
So we still got Grogu as well, because that's the other kind of plot line. It's like, what's going to happen with Grogu? Like, is he just going to be tagging along until the end? I mean, or is he going to go obviously Luke is done. Like, hey, you back with Mando? That's that. You made your choice. But what happens with Grogu now? Like, what is his story going to end like? Taylor, any ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking it's going to go probably 6 or 7 seasons, in my opinion, unless they keep bringing it, maybe they do a spinoff with Grogu and they focus on him more, just like they kind of pulled out, Book of Boba Fett and did Boba Fett. Right. Yeah. Maybe they'll, do another spinoff for another character. I'm not exactly sure, but I think Grogu still has, I mean, the way Disney's selling stuffed animals for Grogu and all the toys, that they aren't going to put him to rest anytime soon.
No, sir.
They're going to keep on going. So I'm not sure where they're going to take it, but I think orders from the top to Filoni and Favreau are do what you can, keep it going, whatever means possible.
I think like Grogu is probably, like, you're right. Like, Grogu is like where they're going to try to make some connections, because all right, let's think about this. Like, Grogu is, he's a Jedi, obviously, but he's not getting trained, right? He's not getting trained by Luke right now. So he's going to kind of end up being like a Mandalorian Jedi, but not really, So where is that storyline going to end? That's my question is, like, how do you finish that thing up? Because eventually we're going to have to say, okay, where do we go after this Mandalorian storyline kind of finishes? Do Do we go back to I know they were trying to do Rangers of the New Republic at one point in time. Are we going to try to, fix that up? Or do they kind of take this thing through Ahsoka and then make the connections to the, to the new Resistance, I guess? Where does it go after you get past Mando and Ahsoka? What do you want to see beyond those guys?
But I mean, like you mentioned, I can see Grogu going off into his own series, so they can continue that thread.
Yeah.
With the Mandalorian, with Mando, and by the time they get to the end, they'll take care of the whole Dark Saber, Moff Gideon, that whole thing. That's why I'm saying it probably won't be that many more seasons. I'm thinking maybe 3, because we haven't even got the 3rd season anyway. So
right. Well, I'm pretty sure.
I think they'll just split everything off.
Okay. All right. So you think that they're going to give us like a couple more seasons and then they're going to start doing little spinoffs, kind of like how Ahsoka and Book of Boba Fett ended up kind of branching out into their own little series.
Yeah, I think they'll keep weaving it through. Like once we get the Ahsoka series, you'll probably see them pop up in there a little bit, and who knows what I mean. There's so many options they could do with it. To like you said, they got 25 years or so to fill in there, so they got plenty of options.
Right.
All right. So here's the next one, right? Because I think this one is one that I think eventually, if you're going to make this sequel trilogy work, you're going to have to address this. Luke in the temple. Okay. That's like why we don't know what happened. Okay. We know what happened, but we don't know. Okay.
Right.
So how much do you think they want to touch on that? It's kind of a sore subject. There's a lot of fans. It's like, they didn't do this right. They didn't do that right. How much do they address Luke and what happened at his temple? Do they show him building the temple? Do you guys even want to see that? Or should it just, hey man, just leave that to mystery?
Honestly, I think they probably should show it, because since like The Last Jedi was so divisive, because there's a group, that side of fans that did not like the way Luke was portrayed.
Right.
But then the folks that do like it are saying, hey, Luke got to that point somehow. Right. If you could show how Luke got to that point, maybe the group that does not like The Last Jedi would probably be more open to it, because now we got the background. It's kind of like what the Clone Wars did for Anakin Skywalker. You watch Anakin in a prequel, you're kind of like, But
they really did a lot of work. Yeah, no, you're right. They fixed the prequels with Clone Wars. They kind of fixed it, because now I'm like, okay, I can go back and enjoy the prequels a little bit better because of how they took care of him in the Clone Wars. Taylor, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, they were deliberately showing the building, of that temple in, Boba Fett. Like, there's a reason why they meticulously showed that there, I feel like. And, I think they could incorporate, like almost like a prequel to how the Knights of Ren came about, because they came through that temple. And, again, that's just more ways they could splinter it off and get that storyline going even further. So I think there's a reason why they showed it. And I think if it was anyone else besides Filoni and Favreau going through it, I'd be skeptical, but I think there's a reason behind their madness.
Taylor's got Filoni and Fabs we trust.
I'm ride or die with them.
Pretty much.
I think they do need to kind of go back to the temple and kind of show that entire process. I firmly believe, just from the standpoint of story, like, we still got Mark Hamill, right? I don't want it to get to the point where it's like, oh man, I wish they would have did that with Mark Hamill. Kind of like how I feel like they should have at least had the trio, Han, Luke, and Leia, together on screen one last time. They missed the opportunity. Right. And that's what I really hate, because they killed off Han, obviously, in The Force Awakens, and it's like, okay, well, that was never going to happen, So to have all three of them back on the screen was a huge misstep. I feel like they have to go and show how Luke went and built out that temple and show him being the great Jedi master that everybody wanted to see. You don't have to, I don't think you have to necessarily make it Luke's story. I think you can make it a story about the young Jedi that he, his little Padawan group. And then, maybe they're just kind of doing their own little training. And then maybe at the end of each episode, Luke kind of steps in and gives them some wise sage advice or something like that. Just kind of say, okay, Luke, it's not your series, because I don't know how much Mark Hamill really wants to be like, doing a full series all by himself. But nevertheless, I think they do need to eventually go back to that. What else can they do in regards to this? Because that was kind of like it for me. Like, Mando to the Force Awakens. Like, what else can they do to kind of fill in those gaps?
I mean, a major one, not to bring up Luke again, is, the last time we see him, he, in the original prequel or original trilogy, he defeats, Darth Vader and Palpatine. Yeah. He's a great warrior. He might not be the best Jedi out there, but he's a great warrior. And then flash forward, we see him in the Force Awakens, I guess. He's a hermit, basically. Yeah. What's he been doing for 25 years or so? Right. There's that huge gap where this temple is so important. So I feel like there's something, that's like a gimme right there that would be such an anything. Easy thing.
Like, just easy to fill in the gaps with
how that, he moved from just being a fearless kind of warrior to being that Jedi master that could teleport his body to act like he's in person versus meditating.
Right.
And that's the thing, because he's such an important character to the Star Wars lore. I have a feeling like Lucasfilm is kind of like, I don't know if we want to touch Luke. Let's kind of make sure we get it right, 100% right, before we go putting them out there. And then next thing you know, it's like, this was terrible, So that's it for that topic, though. But I do want to move on to another one. So here's the next topic. And this one is kind of big for me because I am a huge Obi-Wan fan. What are your expectations for Obi-Wan right now? What do you think Obi-Wan coming into this series? What are you expecting to see? All right. So first topic up for the discussion here is, how much is he going to be talking to Darth Vader? All right. We know they meet twice. We know that they're going to kind of have, they're going to have some kind of conversation. Okay. It's not just going to be, oh, there you go. And then they start swinging sabers at each other. It's going to be like, oh, my old master. Oh, this and that. They're going to give us something. Like, what kind of conversation do you think we're going to get from the two of them? Are they going to be talking about Padme and how everything went down there? Is Obi-Wan going to try one more time? All right, man, come on, Vader. It still sense good in you. Come on back to, what are we going to get from this conversation?
Probably that. They're going to talk about what happened, how the Jedi betrayed the whole, like, you're going to see Vader's viewpoint. Just like it was Anakin's right before he turned, where it's like, hey, the Jedi are evil. They're the ones, like, he's fully wrapped up in what Palpatine was selling to him. So he's going to come out and try to explain why he's doing what he's doing. Versus Obi-Wan, who's going to talk about, that's not right. Probably try to get him to remember when you were a child. Remember when you were learning to be a Jedi. You were always looking out to help people. Doing this way. And it's not like we didn't tell you about the Sith. Like, bro, they kind of crazy. They kind of twisted.
Right. So, he already kind of, it's like he's already down that path. It's like, you slaughtered a whole lot of Padawans in that last little, I don't know how redeemable he
youngling.
is.
You took out some younglings, like, to try and get to that. Now, I do think they're only going to have one confrontation in the entire series.
They said they fight twice. They said that's the rumor. That's the rumor. I don't know how accurate it is, but they did say they fight twice in this. They have 2 saber duels. Now, I don't know if it's within the same series or it's the same show, like maybe one at the beginning of the end, and then they kind of stumble and crash into each other and they fight again, or if it's in 2 separate episodes. They don't go deep into that, but they said they will fight twice. So I don't know how that's going to come out. That to me, that wasn't really important to me to see. I would be more interested to hear the conversations with them versus, Obi-Wan, because remember, there's still that kind of connection. Like, when we last met, you were the master, or whatever. I forgot the exact line.
Right. He was like, I know what you're talking about.
So,
I know what you're talking about.
So how do you, I'm interested to see how they square that circle. Like, okay, we heard him say this, and obviously he's going to meet, but what is that meeting like? How does that work? And what is the conversation like? I'm interested in that. That to me is going to be really interesting. And that's one of those situations when Vader and Obi-Wan meet again, everybody's going to be like, hey, shut up, everybody. Hey, you're going to be paying close attention to every word, because that's like legacy and history that you're looking at right there. Okay. Yeah. These 2 fighting again. That was the first lightsaber duel we ever saw. Okay. And so for them to be meeting again, and now you have, the benefit of the knowledge of what they went through and how it all went down. And now man, that's gonna be an epic moment. But Taylor, what do you think?
I mean,
What kind of conversations are we gonna see from those two?
I think this is going to be a tough one for Disney because I think the expectations are already so astronomically high that it's going to be hard to live up to it no matter what.
Yeah. Oh.
I mean, this is the first live action Star Wars Ewan McGregor's doing since, Revenge of the Sith, however long ago.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw him obviously Clone Wars and Rebels, that brought him back, onto the screen, and, it's almost an impossible feat. And I think they're going to give us, little nuggets throughout. I don't know if they're, I don't think there's going to be too many interactions between Vader and Obi-Wan until a big battle ensues between them. Okay. Maybe. Yeah. I think they're just going to be teasing us, throwing crumbs. There's a reason Ewan came back.
That's
for
what
this.
They do with that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he has to be excited about this. And because, he came back specifically for this, so he's got to be excited. There's got to be something really juicy in this for him, like you said, Taylor, for him to make that comeback. But I'm excited, man. I can't wait to see how that all plays out. All right, so the next thing that we got, so how much Lars are we going to get? I know that Joel Edgerton's coming back, right? And from what I can tell just by looking at like spots on the trailer, it seems like he's got a pretty big role, right? He's going to be in this thing. I don't know how much we're going to get of him and old Aunt Beru, but I think that this could be like maybe one of the more fascinating spots in this show because you have Luke. We already know there's going to be a little bit of Luke. I'm not sure how much, but there's going to be a little bit of Luke. But now it's like Owen trying to defend them, trying to take care of them. Maybe I don't know what we're going to get out of this, but I have a feeling it's going to be a lot. And now it's just time to speculate. Like, what do you expect?
Well, what I expect, because I just remember from Another Hope, like when Luke is sitting there like, hey, I'm trying to get off the planet. I want to do my thing and this and that. And then he says, and some guy, you think they're talking about old Ben Kenobi? Nah, that's just some crazy dude. It was like he didn't want to talk about Kenobi.
Right.
Then the same thing when he brought up his father, he was like, yeah, about my father. He was kind of like hush on it. So that means probably in Obi-Wan, there's probably going to be some crazy stuff that goes down
a lot of
as to why he's protecting young Luke from that truth. Like,
he knows that
something crazy.
Yeah, I think he's got to know, obviously, number one, that there's probably people on the lookout. We got the Inquisitors coming through. All right. So, will the Inquisitors be after Luke? Is that like how this thing is going to work? We sense a Jedi, but we don't know. I don't know. How does this all fit together? One of the questions I had coming into this is how much we know that the Emperor and Vader, they're not aware of Luke's existence, right? For refresh my memory, they didn't figure that out until after A New Hope, between A New Hope and Empire. Okay. So, I was thinking at first, like maybe that could have been why, Ben Kenobi, but then I'm hearing like Ben Kenobi's going to go off planet to try to save Leia. So do they know something about Leia? Like there's a lot of mystery as to what's going to be happening. And then we got these Inquisitors, running through hunting down Jedi. I have a feeling that that's how Ben is going to, or not Ben, Uncle Owen is going to be like, hey man, we got to keep this kid away from all of this Jedi stuff, because he's going to end up getting killed. Like that's how I feel about it. What do y'all think?
Yeah, we see him in A New Hope and he's, completely mentally and physically kind of destroyed at that point. He wants nothing to do with the Empire. So obviously he's going to go through some ordeal in this where he just wants nothing to do with that. Or I think he's going to start out, rah fight against the Empire, get them off my planet. And I think he's going to take the full brunt of it protecting Luke. I don't think it's going to turn out well for him.
I don't think. Well, and to think about, like you were just saying about how Ewan McGregor is coming back. Like Joel Edgerton is like a filmmaker. This guy makes his own movies. He's a writer. He's an actor. He's in a lot of films. This guy doesn't come just okay. I'll come back and do this little TV series. Like no, this is a big deal to have him coming back as Owen Lars. So I'm really excited about that for sure. Yeah. So last thing I wanted to look at is. And this is just kind of, meeting Luke. Like, how much Luke are we going to get? Are we going to see a lot of Luke? Are we meeting him? Are we seeing him just on the one little, he's just kind of standing over there off to the side and he's really not talking. are we going to get down and deep with him and his relationship with Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru and all those guys? Or are we just going to kind of see him just like he's just kind of a side? We know he's there, and maybe we see him playing with a little spaceship or something like that, dreaming of getting off this rock. Or is he, going to have more to do in this particular series? Haven't heard much. They kind of kept what that Luke stuff is going to be. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think he is, because I think the focus is going to be on Kenobi.
Yeah.
Where, we're probably going to see some Luke, obviously. But I don't think him and Obi-Wan Kenobi have a lot of interactions.
Okay.
Maybe when he's older, because he knew who Ben Kenobi was. Like,
he knew who he was, right? Exactly. You're like, I know who he is.
It wasn't like they were like homies. So
yeah, exactly.
And because this series is about Obi-Wan Kenobi, I'm thinking it's more like he's in the background. You see glimpses of Luke. He might have a scene here and there, but I don't think he's going to be a large factor in this entire series.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it'll be like Rebels, where he's just watching from afar. That's what I think. Like it's Obi-Wan. It's not Luke Skywalker series. Like
there you go.
I don't think they'll waste not waste.
I don't
time,
know
but,
if that's.
I don't know if that's.
I don't know if that's a good idea, though. I think that, you want Obi-Wan to be a focus, but they at least need a couple of scenes with Luke. I think a couple of scenes with Luke, that's good for the fan.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, not having them at all would be kind of like, come on. You couldn't give him one scene. Just give him out there. Hey, who are you, old man? Oh, I'm Ben Kenobi. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
nice to
meet you. I'm sure they'll meet, have a couple interactions, but I don't think it'll be anything major.
Because you think like Ben is saving his kid, or he's supposed to be watching over this kid. So maybe, he stumbles upon a Tusken Raider camp by accident. And then, Luke is trying to escape. And then out of nowhere, you see Ben just kind of grab him by his, hey, man, don't be playing around with these guys. These guys are dangerous. Get on out of here. That would be fun.
Right.
Just something along those lines. All right, let's move on to the next topic. Now, here's the one that, you guys see my shirt, right? Star Wars Celebration. Okay, so I'm going to be going to Celebration this year. I have had my tickets. I've been holding on to these tickets since 2019. This is the 2020 shirt, and they canceled it because of the situation Pandemic. In the country. Yeah, they had to cancel it. So it's like, all right. So I never refunded my tickets. I said, yep, I'm still going. They're going to have it eventually. And they said, yeah, we're just going to roll this thing on over. And they rolled it over. And I think they changed it like either once or twice. But now they finally firmly set a date. It's going to be this month, end of May 26th through the 29th. So I'm excited just because, number one, I love going to Celebration. It's just a bastion of positivity, man. Everybody loves Star Wars. You see all the people dressed up. You get all kinds of Star Wars news. I'm not as much into the collecting and all that kind of stuff, but I like hanging out and meeting new people that are all over the country, all over the world, really. I'm in like a little group right now, and there's a guy that's coming from Wales, and he's like, yeah, man, I'm looking forward to Star Wars. He's coming all the way over here from Wales. And yeah, this is going to be a pretty cool event to attend. But there's always announcements, right? So this one announcement, and I'm going to bring this up. This is this Lucasfilm Studio Showcase. Oh, Bill, sorry, we cut you off here. Let me do it. All right. So we got the Lucasfilm Studio Showcase, and you can read it right here. This is the first main event, right? Like Celebration has a whole bunch of, just like a ton of panels. Tiny little panels, big, huge panels. This is going to be probably the biggest panel. And it kicks it off on Thursday, 11 to 12:30. It says the Star Wars Celebration returns, launching with a must-see showcase that will kick the weekend's festivities in the hyperdrive. Lucasfilm's current crop of live-action filmmakers will be joined by special guests to discuss the many Star Wars adventures coming soon, including Obi-Wan, Andor, and The Mandalorian. All right, so we know they're going to be talking about that. But the key part about this is the current crop of live-action filmmakers. All right, so who do we know that's a live-action filmmaker that supposedly is making a Star Wars film? All right, so we know that they announced that Patty Jenkins is going to be doing a Rogue Squadron film, right? Taika Waititi apparently is still on board to do a Star Wars film. They said, yep, you'll be doing a Star Wars film. Kevin Feige threw his name in the hat, right? He wanted, hey, man, I want to produce a Star Wars film. We don't know what any of these films are going to be, but they've all been announced at one point or another. There's also television shows. Besides the three that they're naming there, you got The Acolyte. That one's been that's supposed to be taking place towards the end of the High Republic era, about 200 years ago or 200 years before the Phantom Menace. And then you still have Lando. there's a lot of announcements that have been made. They've been saying things, but they really haven't said much. They haven't announced very much in regards to that. So I'm asking you guys, what kind of announcements do you want to hear at this celebration?
Probably more like, they're probably going to announce more shows. It would be good to hear more shows. I have a suggestion for a show, just, hey,
Yeah.
make Solo an animated or live action show.
Okay.
Probably
Yeah.
animated. Make Solo one, because Solo the movie was real cool, and it'd be good to explore that whole thing. So, that was the subject that we've discussed before.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
But
What do you think, Taylor?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on board, Travell. I'd love a Solo expanded universe, because the ending there, you can do so much with Darth Maul and Solo and, Crimson Dawn, the crime syndicates, so much you can do there.
Like Kira's running that now, apparently. She's like, it's like, okay. And I'm sure Amelia Clark would be like, yeah, bring me back in, man. This is great.
I got nothing else to do.
Yeah, I mean, what is she doing? I don't know what she's doing, but she might, say, hey, you guys are doing this Kira thing. All right, let's keep it going. Let's keep the party going. Yeah, I mean, that plus what else? I mean, what other like, I know that's
probably movies.
Like, movies, huh?
Yeah,
like,
I think we'll get some expected release dates. We'll definitely get, I feel like, release dates for the shows coming up, like Ahsoka and Andor and
I forgot about Ahsoka. I think they're producing that now.
Bad Batch season also, so we'll probably get those release dates.
For the live action stuff,
because
Bad Batch is a cartoon, so live action, I forgot all about Ahsoka. Thanks for reminding me about that, because I completely forgot about that. And I think they've been filming that, so we should have something. I don't know if they'll give us like footage, but they've been filming. They've been filming Ahsoka, so we should have some footage or a first look or a behind the scenes video or something coming out for that. And then Andor, Andor's supposed to drop this year sometime, I think, right? So what are we
most likely Mandalorian season 3? We'll see.
And Mando season 3, yeah. Like, we need more footage, Star Wars, because we just not getting or Lucasfilm, we just not getting a lot. Like, I just feel starved. I don't know how else to say it. I just feel like, hey man, it's like you guys announced all of this stuff like a couple of years ago, and like so far, Bad Batch, we had the Visions cartoon that dropped. That's pretty much been it. And Book of Boba Fett, out of the stuff that we didn't know, that was the new stuff that they dropped, and that's pretty much been it. But I'm waiting on a movie, because for me, that's like the big news. Like, when you're announcing a movie, like, okay, now we stepping back into the ring with our actual feature film, not this Disney Plus stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with Disney Plus.
Nope,
but
not wrong at all.
Yeah, but we want movies. That's how Star Wars is the way I look at it, Star Wars is a movie, like a property, it's a film property. Like, sometimes things are like comic books, you got it from a comic book, so that's kind of where it had its beginning and then its roots. Starts in comic books, or some stuff started in a novel. Hey, this is a novel, like Harry Potter stuff. They adapted that into movies. Star Wars was always a movie. It started off as a movie, and I feel like when and they've only made a handful of films. You think about in the 40 some odd years that this thing has been around, they only made 11 films. So I think they need to. They've made 11 films, so they really need to dive back in and start producing more films. That's what we as Star Wars fans, at least me personally, that's what I want. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that in the sense of, but I think if it's going to be movies, make it post sequel trilogy.
Okay.
The future of it. I say
get away from the Skywalker saga.
Right, because that's what they were trying to do. They did it kind of sloppy. But that's what they were basically trying to do. We're trying to get past the Skywalker era. They're doing it for a reason. So if you're going to come out with movies, come out with the post-Skywalker era. Leave Disney Plus and all the shows and all that for during the Skywalker era, because there's so much years in there that you can explore.
Filling those gaps.
Give us all those
filling in the gaps. Filling in the gaps. So, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But movie-wise, I think it should be post-Skywalker, because that's obviously what they were trying to push.
So what do you want to see as far as a movie? Like, what's the next movie they need to do? Like, what would you do? What kind of Star Wars movie could you do outside of the Skywalker saga?
Well, if it's going to be post-sequel trilogy, so, I mean, you probably would have to explore more with Rey, Finn. Obviously they have to come up with a new villain, because supposedly this time Palpatine's gone.
For real, he done. I mean, Do you bring in a different villain? Like I know they're like experimenting like that with the High Republic. It's like, oh, it's not the villains, not the Sith. It's like some other I forget what they're called. But it's not the Sith. You know, the Sith is like the villain of the Skywalker saga,
Right.
and then in the Old Republic that was the villain, and then they're like pirates or something. I can't remember. They're like pirates, and they go from planet to planet and kind of control stuff. Do you go with a different villain, or do you just bring the Sith back in?
Well, the Sith are supposedly gone because they blew up Exegol, but
Right. So
maybe just people who almost like in Rogue One. I forgot the guy's name, the blind guy, but where he wasn't a Jedi, but he knew the Force. You can do that with the dark side of the Force. Dark Force users, where we're not Sith, but we're just
those are the Inquisitors, basically. They're not.
Is that
Sith.
what the Inquisitors? Yeah, that's true. They aren't Sith.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So you is like a different faction, or is it just
like a different
random
faction?
Okay. All right.
Like they know how to use the dark side of the Force. They're just not Sith because it's supposed to be the rule of two or whatever.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. I mean, that'll be interesting. I do want to see the future of Star Wars films. Me and you, Travell, we've always had this conversation. Can they do anything outside of Rebels, Empire, Sith, Jedi? Like that's pretty much the Star Wars formula.
They would have to.
Can they go outside of that? Can they do anything outside of that? Or does everything have to be, well, there's a rebellion, there's an empire controlling everything, and then there's a rebellion, and that's kind of like the main story. But then in between that, you got like Sith and Jedi trying to fight out this little cultural battle, and who's going to reign supreme in that regards. Is there anything that Star Wars is beyond that? I know, like, we want to see like the underworld of Star Wars, like the criminals and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like that stuff is cool, but I don't know if you could base like a whole like trilogy on that or a whole series. And does Star Wars even need to do trilogies? Like, can it just make one-off films?
I mean, is it Star Wars at that point?
That's my question. Like, is it Star Wars? Can you do Star Wars, or is it just Rebels and Empire? You got to have big bad Empire, and you got to have a rebellion. Because that's what they really did. That's what they've kind of done throughout Star Wars, with the exception of like the first film, like the Phantom Menace. The Phantom Menace, they kind of had like a little bit of a okay, the Trade Federation was kind of like this oppressive, regime over a planet, Naboo, but it kind of got away from that, and then you started to see, okay, now we got the Separatists, fighting against like the Republic. So okay, now you start to see that little hint of an Empire rebellion type situation.
I think any way they do it, they have to somehow link it to the Skywalker era.
They have
otherwise,
if
they completely cut it off, all linkage to that era, it's not Star Wars. It's just action wars.
It's just an action movie.
Space Wars.
Yeah, Space Wars, right. Yeah, that's where I'm interested to see what else can they do, if anything. Will they even attempt it, or will they say, nah, if it doesn't have a Jedi in it, we're not gonna. It's like Mandalorian first season didn't really have Jedi, but it was Star Wars because it took place in that particular
and it had
realm.
Stormtroopers,
and it had Stormtroopers, it had the Empire, kind of the last vestiges. You had a New Republic, so you had all of those elements.
There was a linkage.
There was that linkage, exactly.
So if you throw in Rey or Finn, you still have the linkage to that Star Wars Skywalker era because they're connected to it. As if you come up with something completely new, is where it would be a problem.
I agree with you on that 100%. All right, last thing we want to look at, and this is right before we roll up out of here, the Star Wars fandom. So we know how Star Wars is, man. The fans are probably the most passionate fans in the entire world. I mean, you got people hating like each other in like real life because of their Star Wars opinions. It's the most funny. It's funny and sad at the same time because it's like, okay, I'm never going to hate somebody over a Star Wars opinion. That's just never going to happen. But I understand the passion behind it because, all right, like, so we're recording this the day before, but this is May the 4th. Like this is going to, roll out on May the 4th. Right. So you have a whole day where people have said this is Star Wars Day. Like, I don't think that exists in any other franchise anywhere else. Like, there is a Star Wars Day, May the 4th. And then there's like Revenge of the 5th. I think the people are going to do that. And, the following day, Revenge of the 5th. It's like the Star Wars fandom is the best, but it's also extremely emotional. And, like I said, I've always said, I understand when you become attached to something and it means a lot to you, you know, you kind of, you can kind of get your feelings hurt when things aren't done the way you know they should be done. Me and you, Travell, with G.I. Joe, for instance. I know you're a big G.I.
Right,
Joe fan, and
right.
you know all
Yeah, especially them
you
stupid movies, man. Those I hate them movies with a passion, but
but you don't, but you still are a GI Joe fan deep down, right? You
right.
haven't
Oh
written
yeah,
them off yet. Like if they come along and say one guy figures this thing out and says, "Hey man, I got the best GI Joe idea. Here we go," and you go and you sit down and watch that movie, and it is a great movie, you're back in.
I'm gonna be cool. Yeah.
What does Lucasfilm need to do to kind of unite the fandom? That's my question.
That's gonna be hard, just because of all that Star Wars universe is like
Mm-hmm.
the real life universe.
Yeah.
All these different opinions, all these different viewpoints. So
Yeah.
you're gonna get some toxicity in there. Some people are just not nice people, just say it nicely,
Yeah.
where they just become bullies. I mean, look, you bullying actresses like I was just an actress playing a role. Why are
like,
you acting
why
like
are you doing this to me, right?
Right, like
I'm just playing a role. But yeah, you're right. Like people will take it to that extreme where they'll just start like ragging on somebody that they don't know in real life, and they're just gonna go online and just kind of let it all hang out.
right,
We saw how even back before social media became a huge deal, we saw what they did with Ahmad Best.
right,
Regarding Jar Jar Binks. It's like, dude, I'm just playing a part. Like, what do you want from
right.
me? Golly, dude. I mean, come on, man. I'm doing a good job. If you say my acting job was terrible, all right, but you guys just hated the character, and then you started hating me in return. I'm like, that's insane.
Right.
But I feel like with Star Wars fans, I think there's a way you can bring them all back. And I think we talked about it earlier. It starts with Luke Skywalker. I think that you gotta have a plan for how you can bring this thing home if you do his
Yeah.
character justice. Like people didn't like The Last Jedi and how Luke went out, but if the last thing we get out of Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker is something in a positive direction that is, transcends the genre. I mean, transcends the film. It's like he's inspirational once again. I think if you could do something like that brings the fan. We saw what happened at the end of Mando season 2, man. I think everybody was
Right.
nuts, and no, so that to me that's where you got to start. It's like Luke is a positive character, and you can you do him right, and everybody becomes positive about Luke Skywalker again. Especially if you write just the right story, for him. I would cut it off before you get to that Kylo Ren stuff. Don't get me wrong. I would
Yeah.
cut it off just before that. Like, all right, we're gonna come up to this point. You already know what happens, folks. Don't even worry about it after that point. You guys know how it is. But yeah, we're gonna cut it off right there. We're still kind of on a positive note. Like maybe he does something, wins a great battle against something. I don't know. But
Right.
Taylor, what do you think? Bring in the Star Wars fandom back together again, where everybody's like, all right, we're all back on board.
Yeah, I mean, the reason people love Star Wars is they could just get lost in it and have an adventure at the end of the day. And yeah, with Luke, I mean, I was disappointed in the sequel trilogy, but they can, like, Disney's, I'd say they've learned from, their errors in that with Mandalorian.
You think they learned their lesson?
I think they're on the right track.
Okay,
And
all right.
I think they're on their way. I honestly do.
Okay.
Like I like the direction they're going in. They have so much opportunity here coming up, so we'll see what they go with it.
No, I agree with you. So do I. I think they have a lot of opportunities right now. Like right now, they've held off making like major films, and they made a couple of TV. Mando has been doing good, so they've kind of held off on the films. And they're saying, Terrell, if you got to drop, you can drop anytime, man. We're just going to clean up and finish up real quick.
Are we almost wrapping up, or?
We're about to wrap up, but I know I just saw the clock, so I know you had to check out. But if you do need to drop, that's fine. I could just finish up. But I do think that, right now where we are in the series, that everybody kind of understands, okay, with we haven't had any films, and I think everybody's kind of waiting to see what the next film is. It's like, okay, what's that next film going to be? And if that next film is something in a positive direction, okay, we're on board with that. If they can get on Disney Plus and kind of work something with Luke and his future, somewhere down the line, maybe not right now, but somewhere in the next 5 to 10 years, they kind of say, okay, we're going to fix Luke. Don't worry, folks. We're going to fix Luke so that everything kind of smooths out with the fandom. I think you got something, okay? Will they do it? We'll see. We'll see. All right, folks, but that'll do it for this episode of Sith is the Way. I want to thank you guys for watching. This is episode number 1. We're going to come back and do this again, episode 2. You guys good with that?
I'm good
Oh,
with
yeah.
that.
All right. All right. We're working our way up to Celebration, so we're going to have a lot of Star Wars talk. We're going to look at some of the other panels that Star Wars Celebration is going to perform. This is the 20th anniversary of the Attack of the Clones. So we're going to be talking about, that panel, and there's a couple of other panels that we're going to discuss. But yeah, that's it for us. I want to thank you guys for watching. And if you haven't done so, there's a like and a subscribe button down below. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and click that. And that way you can get all the videos, all these episodes of Sith is the Way. And yeah, appreciate it, fellas. Thanks for dropping by and joining me in on this. All right. All right, folks. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all next time.